Yeah, what is good, everybody? I hope you all had a fantastic start to the trading week. We're in a very interesting situation in the markets with the banks collapsing, and we've been spot on with natural gas, the US dollar, Tesla, Amazon, SPY, biotech, and market overall. And we're about to get a really clear setup here, as we've been waiting for about, I think, a week and a half, where I said there's going to be a lot of indecision in the markets, and the market is finally making its decision, which we can now capitalize on and make a trade. So, we're just gonna get into it. Make sure to share the video some love, give it a like and subscribe, and let's get into it. So, to start off here, of course, we're gonna start with oil here. Now, oil's just been trading in this range. It's gonna break out at some point and it's gonna go berserk. Just needs some clear catalyst for it. Either it's going to plummet into the ground or it's gonna rocket up over 90 into the 100s probably. But I think it still has, it might need a little more time before consolidating and breaking out, but it's coming. So we're gonna keep an eye on oil, but I don't think it's necessarily ready yet. So on to natural gas. So if you remember in our last video and in the Discord, which I'm gonna show you something quick, we were talking about how this is setting up for a disgusting short opportunity, and it would 100% guaranteed come down into this range. Not many people can really guarantee something like this. I'm not a financial advisor. I'll trade your own risk, but with my strategy, Elliott Wave, you can genuinely completely predict the tops and the bottoms and where something will go. It's not some kind of chance. It's how the market works. It's how the structure it's just how the market works, and that's why I'm able to predict with pretty much 100% accuracy when it's going to top and where it will go. So I'm going to show you something quick from my Discord, just kind of a picture of how I expect it to look. So here's the picture from the Discord, where I was looking for that short entry. I was looking for it to get up into that range, and it didn't completely get there. It missed it by 3 cents. So I said, maybe we still get to that target, but I'm now looking to the downside. And where did we go? We went right down to the range after going up into that short entry range. So this is how the market works. It goes up in 5 waves, comes down in 3 waves. Now theoretically, where this should go is much higher. So I unfortunately missed my entry on this. I wanted to go long last night. I believe we were right here. But I was also concerned about one more low, like maybe a stop out. So I didn't take the position. I was waiting until the morning and I slept in. So a little unfortunate for me, but there's always another opportunity to get back in. Nothing goes up forever, nothing goes down forever. So this theoretically, if it's as bullish as it is, 5 waves up, 3 waves down, this is the start of a new wave to the upside. So really be on the lookout for more upside on natural gas. If you're trading futures, especially if you're trading futures with me in the Discord, we made I think I made close to 11,000 on this entire move down. So, if you can really just practice patience, wait for these setups, there is so much money to be made. I've made maybe like 4 or 5 trades in the past like 2 weeks, and I just wait for the perfect setups. And you don't need to take that many trades to make more than enough money than you need. So, not too much to say for natural gas. This is a correction. It finished the correction into the range I was looking for, and it's starting the wave up. So everything's going according to plan. Maybe we'll be watching the microstructure here to see if we get a smaller 5 waves up, and then get a correction down, and that's where I would take my long position. So that's what I'm going to be looking for. I'm bullish on natural gas. We'll just have to see what it does. I would say probably towards the end of this week. US dollar. So if you remember here, out of wedges, so wedge breakdowns are extremely impulsive. There is not much structure after you break out of wedge. They go straight down pretty much. And I said in my last video, I don't really trust the structure because it should have broken down already, and it didn't. So I was just skeptical about it, and it rockets up, hits the apex of these previous supports and resistances, and then breaks down. So, very tricky to trade here, and just kind of predict, but now it's breaking down. So, I've showed you this many times here. Wedges break down to the 50% to the 61.8%. So, we might be looking at just a tad more downside on the US dollar. So that's what I'm looking for. We're pretty close here, but I would like to see it get to at least 103.35. Apple, not too much to say here. It's been stuck in this fib range for I think a few weeks now, right? Since February, yeah. So it just cannot break this upper boundary, of the 0.236. So I'm going to zoom out and show you how this is drawn. I've shown you guys this numerous times here. We've watched it respect these lines up to the downside and to the upside, and it just can't break this for its life. But I think it's pretty likely it fills that gap. That's a pretty significant gap, so if that's the case, SPY's probably going to get to 430, and that's what I'm going to explain soon. So make sure to stick around and watch the whole video until that part, because that's where the money's going to be made. So Apple, it really just looking for either to break this upside or to the downside, probably break this level right here without a gap down. So that's been the issue here. If it starts moving to the downside without a gap down, then you could definitely see a much bigger and sustained move to the downside, because every time it gaps down, it comes back up to fill it. Tesla, I'll show you another message from the Discord, just so you can kind of see how everything's playing out, and you can just kind of see how these expectations turn out right pretty much every time. So Tesla, we were bullish at 101 because of this demand zone, and under that it was either 94 with that gap fill, and going all the way, if we went below that, we were probably going to move to 60, and that just didn't make sense because nothing goes down forever, nothing goes up forever. That was just too much of a move. So I was looking for it to bottom right around here. We went into 101 and we rocketed up, and that's when I said I'm probably looking for a 230. Now we didn't get to 230, but I was looking for this region where we had all these resistances. We had this trend line resistance. We had this these fib measurement resistances. And I mean, there was so much resistance. It was so overbought, and I was like, it's going to top here, and that's what happened. So I'm going to show you those expectations we had in the Discord. So here it is in the Discord. I said Tesla's about to get murdered, and I think it's likely we managed to get down to 146, and that was pretty much right at the top. And a big reason I thought this was because that daily MACD was turning down. That's signaling a shift in momentum on a much larger scale than, like, the 5-minute chart. So this is when you really see these ginormous shifts in momentum and just kind of the inflow and outflows of all the money going into these individual stocks in the market. So that's what happened to Tesla. It got absolutely obliterated. It's down from the high, it's like 26%, 24, 25%. So Tesla gotten absolutely murdered, but nothing goes down forever, nothing goes up forever. So, this bounce is kind of expected. It's hitting a pretty big support here as well. Not a major support, but just a support. So, I think we could see a little more upside. The 2-hour is definitely oversold here, and that momentum is shifting, but the momentum isn't shifting on, like, the daily, let's say. So what this means is the overall trend is still to the downside, but there's going to be bounces on the way down, which you can see on the smaller time frames, like right here. So the histogram is going green, the MACD is crossing through to the upside, and it's already pretty low. So you could definitely see these curl up and then continue to the downside, but we're just going to give Tesla some time here, and happy to see that there were some people that capitalized on this, buying these options that have a lot of time on them till expiration, and making 150% on it, which is really good considering those are options with, like, a month out till expiration sort of thing. So Tesla, not too much to say here. I guess we're just going to give it some time before likely resuming to the downside. Amazon here, if you remember, back out in this channel, we were looking for that breakout to fill this gap, and once we got up here, I was like, I'm not really looking for anything more, and I'm looking for a retracement back to the downside. Now, not necessarily a retracement, because this structure is not what I would really like to see. It's not very clear that it has a general direction, but what is happening here is that it's just coming back to test the strength of buyers here, which I said it's likely going to come down and test this demand zone, which I said maybe over like a month. It was on the day of earnings, or like the day after earnings, something like that, and I said we could see these demand zones, which it's probably going to get there, and that's where it is now. So no surprises here. We're just going to see if it can hold up around here, because if it doesn't, you actually have a small gap down here, which could get filled, but it doesn't necessarily have to. We'll see. But if it doesn't hold this low, then we could see a lot more downside. Probably, right. This is clear as day. If we break this region, then you have another support over here around the 60s, but the big spot it's going to get to in the future is 50. This is a major gap, major demand zone, massive volume gap. So sometime in the future, Amazon is extraordinarily likely to get to 50. So keep your eye on that 50 level, because we're likely going to get there in the future. I don't know when, but we're likely going to be getting there at some point. So on to biotech. In my last video, I was talking about how this will break out to one side or the other. That's just how patterns work. They break out. You can't trade in something like this forever. And we're coming down to this, and I said we're probably going to break to the downside. And I did not think it was going to be so aggressive. But in hindsight, when you're trading in a pattern for this long, and you have a lot of people taking positions inside of it, those breakouts are accelerated because you have so many traders that have been positioned that are closing those positions and repositioning, which just accelerates in the momentum to whatever direction it's going in. So that's what happened here. Nasty drop in this also was contributed to by the bank collapsing. I think specifically Silicon Valley Bank, because the majority of their exposure, their funding was to these U.S. biotech companies. So that's why biotech got absolutely obliterated, just because of that banking crisis with SVB. So I don't really know what to say here. Maybe we bounce more. I think this is a good spot to just give it some time, because this is a nasty move. It might need to slow down and just consolidate a little. So it finally had an enormous move. I've been waiting for this to break out or break down for a very, very long time. I think I was waiting for this since like the first few attempts of it. So a couple months now, and it finally did it. It took a really long time, but now I don't really have anything to say. Just gonna wait. Semiconductors testing a very, very crucial level here, which we've been talking about for the past 2 weeks. It needs to hold this region. I really recommend you go back to my last video and just skip to the semiconductors part, because this is going to be a very big indication for what the general markets are going to do. If you can't hold this region, semiconductors are going to absolutely plummet, and the market's going to plummet as well. SPY under 300, that's what I'm looking for. And go ahead, call me crazy for saying under 300, but there's a lot of fundamental things the market needs to unravel. So there is absolutely no reason why SPY can't go under 300. There's just, you can't really make that argument. So yeah, if it doesn't hold this region here, new lows are coming. And the one to watch is SOXS for that. It's holding the support, very sloppy support, kind of. I mean, there's like, it's a pretty sloppy support, but it's holding it. It's an important support to hold, and just kind of like glancing at it, there seems to be some kind of resistance right here, if you can see that. So this looks like a triangle, actually, A, B, C, D, E. This is a bearish triangle. This is actually the first time I kind of like spotted this triangle. So bearish triangle, but they don't always have to break out in the direction that it's setting up in. So A, B, C, D, E. So I wouldn't really be betting on the big direction yet until kind of like a confirmation of that direction, but very interesting setup here. I'll keep my eye on this for a breakout. If you break this this support, which it's kind of hard to know when the support breaks, just because this was clearly a breakdown, and then it just skyrocketed back up. So I would say it's a little hard to tell. I would just really keep your eye on SOXX and watch that region, because if it holds, you can make a massive move towards 500, which I would open probably one of my biggest short positions I've ever opened, for a massive retrace, because after 5 waves, what do you get? You get your ABC down to 50% to 61.8% of that original move up. So keep your eye on this thing. If it gets to 500, you can short it, and if it breaks down, you can see some horrendous downside. You got a lot of gaps to fill that are really far away. So keep your eye on that. The VIX, really interesting here. Rejecting at some pretty big trend lines. Not too much to say here, I guess. Yeah, I really don't know what to say. It's at big resistances, kind of overbought. But yeah, you got some fear spreading right now. Doesn't mean anything insane is going to happen. Just it's at a big resistance. So this trend line resistance, as well as these horizontal resistances from the past that have proven to be really, really, really tough to get through. So very interesting. 30 to 40 is kind of a danger zone. If you get through that, I mean, you can easily just start running up to 60, 80. Um, Not really, can't really say how high the VIX can go just because you can't really measure the moves on this. It's just kind of a sentimental factor that decides what it wants to do pretty much. So it's in the danger zone, I guess. It rejected there in the first attempt, but keep an eye on it. So on to SPY here. We got a couple interesting things to say. So the first thing I want to do is show a message from the Discord, just kind of how these expectations have been going according to plan. So this message, I forget when this message was from. Whatever day this was, I guess comparing to the chart, that was right here. So March 2nd, we were looking for a major move to the upside because I'm just going to show you this quick. We had these huge divergences. You can see the MACD moving up while the price just kept going down, and it was respecting this support right here. Not exactly respecting it, but you can see it oscillating around it, and that momentum was starting to signal that shift in momentum. So let me make my picture smaller, kind of in the way. So I really recommend for those people who aren't, I guess, implementing this indicator, the MACD, into their trading strategy. It's incredibly useful. There's a lot of things you can really take away from it and understand with it. I'm going to show you something big on the daily chart quick, which it was pretty interesting. It happened right before the banking crisis, and I was really talking about it in the Discord. If you're in there, I was like, this is really interesting. I've never seen this happen. I think something big's about to happen, and then like 2 days later, the banks just started collapsing out of nowhere, basically. So what I was saying was from the Discord here, we were looking for that move up, and then I said if resistance holds, like in the 405 to 408 region, 380 looks very likely at this point. And what did we hit today? 380. So, I mean, once you learn how to zoom out and you just stop getting so distracted by these really tiny, like, minute chart moves, you can really see the bigger picture. And once you understand the bigger picture, it becomes easier to trade those intraday moves because you understand where the general direction is going, and you aren't, getting stuck with retail in the hood, and they don't know how to trade. It gets under my skin so much because you see these ginormous moves to the downside, and then they start shorting here. Like, I can't imagine how many people shorted this morning at open because of the banks, and as a result, you started squeezing to the upside. You ran like $10 in like 2 hours or something like that. So just you need to learn how to zoom out and look at the macro picture and just kind of put aside all the distractions, all the emotions, because the market is not going to treat you right if you're trading with emotions. So from here, I think it's likely we're looking at one more low. So I was looking for 380 to kind of be the bottom, and if you look at my last thumbnail, I actually haven't changed any of these lines, but I was kind of thinking 380 would be the bottom, but I wasn't really like looking at the numbers, like paying attention. So 380 still kind of looks like that, or I guess it'll actually be the 370s on SPY. That will likely be the really, really, really important level to hold because we have invalidated this scenario here. We needed one more high, so that's when these really like intraday moves matter. You needed this one more high here, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You needed that one more high, and then the retrace, and you could have gone higher, but that did not happen. That was invalidated. So now what we're looking for is that low, and if it holds or not. So I'm just going to kind of explain what happened here. So once we had 5 down here, it was really likely that we would continue to the downside because after 5 waves, you get a correction and then you continue. So right here, ABC, you get 5 waves and then your ABC, and you continue to the downside. Now this is very messy. It's hard to count this structure, so I'm not even going to bother because you have all this overlapping stuff. So it's not worthwhile trying to like count that and understand what's happening right here. But the big thing is to focus on the bigger picture. So it's a very interesting spot, just kind of all around in the market because you have all this stuff happening with the banks, which, I mean, that doesn't happen. You don't see like every bank collapse like 80-60% in a matter of days. That's not normal. Wiping out like literally a decade's worth of gains in a week. That's not normal. So it's a scary spot in the market. This is the first time where I've thought that an event is actually kind of, um, I guess, dangerous because I think the big one to know Evergrande, the Chinese real estate situation where they built so many like, um, I guess like complexes or like homes and everything, but people weren't buying the homes and they were just kind of like, uh, so people would invest in the homes before they were even built, and they would use that money to build more homes. And they did that for a really long time, and then people stopped buying the homes, and they weren't finishing the previous homes that they were building. So they had all of these unfinished homes, and then people that had money tied up in these homes that they like invested in, and the homes weren't even finished. So they wanted their money back, but they didn't have any money to pay them back because they put it all into homes that no one was gonna buy, no one had bought. So that was a horrible situation. I believe they got bailed out. I kind of forget, but that was a big one. And then there was Archegos Capital. Um, I don't know if they shut down or not, but they had I don't know, they had some money problems, and this is the first time where I'm really seeing a massive like issue being created because it's not just one bank collapsing. It was literally like how many banks? Like there were 33 banks that were halted in the morning, dropping 60-80%, and that's not normal. So this is the first time I'm kind of like, this is a little scary. Something could happen from this. So if that happens, you could see that rubber band break, and you could see some serious downside. But nothing goes down forever, nothing goes up forever. So I would expect it to be a process, but it's a little tricky to say with this one because this isn't really something that happens every day that you can kind of look back in history and say, okay, this will probably happen because you have cases to work with. That's not the case in this scenario. So what we're looking for here is likely another low, and I will be going long here if we get that one more low. And what you have to look for from here is, do we get five waves? Are we do we get five waves up from the bounce, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or is it just gonna be an ABC into resistance? So we'll see. We'll probably see some kind of resistance form here. The big resistance is actually going to be this low here because um, this is. I believe I'm actually drawing this wrong. So just I didn't draw it wrong. It's just developed out differently. So I believe this is the case here. I need to clear this up. Actually, that's what I'm gonna do first. So uh, yeah, let me clear this up quick. So what we're looking for here is one more low, regardless of whether it's going to go to 430. That's a case. That's a possibility. We go into this support and we move all the way up to 430, and then we have the major crash, which just kind of wipes. That's going to wipe out trillions of dollars in valuations of companies, people's net worths. It's going to be catastrophic. So either we crash kind of soon, or we have a big bounce because all of these people are going to be shorting right here, and you see a disgusting melt up like we've had in the past, and then you crash, or it's just, I think, straight down. So those are the two scenarios. We invalidated that first one. We were looking at the direct path to 430, and that was invalidated. So anyways, getting back on track here, I believe this is the right way to draw this. So wave 1, 3, 4, 5. So actually, we're kind of like almost done with this development, in my opinion. The area I would definitely be watching is, it's going to be, so I can draw these fibs differently, but just from memory, how I've been looking at it the past few days, I'm just going to show you the range. So it's going to be, I would say, 3,800 to around the mid 3,700, so like 3,750 ish. So from there, I go long, and I'm looking for a bounce regardless. And we'll just kind of have to see how that structure develops on the way up from the bounce. So this is extraordinarily confusing. I'm not going to bother with it, but yeah, we're looking for this wave to finish to the downside before some sort of bounce regardless. Now we're going to go on to the daily so I can show you what I was, actually that's going to be on SPY. So SPY here, also another interesting thing here is we finally filled this area. I said this all the way like back here. I was like, this is a region of illiquidity. We're gonna come back down here and touch this area, and we finally did that. So took several months for that to happen, but it finally happened. Just getting it out of the way, there's not really too much to say here. Just look for these areas. This is an area we will go to. I'm saying that right now. Watch that 398 area to 393. Very liquid region. These regions always come back and get tested. I believe another name for it is, I believe it's fair value gap, I forget what it's called to be honest, but there's another name for it. I like to call them regions of illiquidity because I'm just gonna kind of prove my point here. So you're gonna see a massive gap in these sideways candles, which are just the volume traded in that region. So you can see here, this is the volume gap. I showed you that on Amazon. This is a volume gap here. If you move into it, you squeeze right through it or you fall right through it because there's no support being created in it, and you have to go to that next area to test the buyers or sellers. So keep an eye on this gap right here. So it's actually 397-ish to 392. So keep your eye on that region. Very, very likely we get back up there at some point. I would say maybe like within a week or 2 weeks, but we'll just kind of have to go as it goes. So anyways, I keep kind of putting this off. The daily MACD. So I was talking about this in the Discord here. I kind of want to clear this up a little. So if you've looked at my thumbnails, this was the thumbnail I had. Every time the MACD crosses down, what happens? You get obliterated. And, you know, I made that very clear here that SPY is very likely going to drop a lot because the massive shift in momentum on the daily chart on SPY. So the really interesting thing though is that we really hadn't dropped yet. I believe, what day was I looking at? I was looking at this on Friday, so I think it was somewhere like around here, but we hadn't dropped at all basically, and the momentum was absolutely plummeting. So this was telling me that this isn't usual, and something's about to happen. And what do you know? That whole banking situation happened. So really interesting. I'm not sure if it can get bigger. The government can do something. The Fed can do something to kind of, I guess, I would call it a delay. I don't really think they can fix it. But if they can't fix it, I think the rubber band's going to snap. So be careful these next week or two. And another thing I want to show you, just kind of like, if you want to read it, if you're interested in learning a little bit about options, this is something I was talking about this morning. I'm not going to read it out, but if you're curious to learn a little bit about options, I was explaining why it's probably a bad idea to kind of swing options on these banks right now because the IV is skyrocketing. So pause the video, read through this. But yeah, anyways, I don't have anything else to say. Not to gas, continuing to the upside so far. We'll see how the market goes this week. I'm going home to California for spring break, so I don't know if I'll be doing a video when I go home. I likely will, but we'll see. Anyways, if you watched the whole video through, make sure to show it some love, give it a like, and subscribe, and peace out, guys.